Good afternoon and welcome to Municipal Council for Tuesday, October 3rd at 2 p.m. Welcome to everyone. Madam Clerk, please let the record show that Mayor Haxon is absent with notice, and as acting mayor, I will be chairing today's meeting. So I'd like to begin by calling this meeting to order and asking for any declarations of interest. And I'll put my camera on. Seeing none? Oh, Councillor Johns, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. A bit of housekeeping. It was I previously declared a conflict of interest, and then when under the adoption of the minutes of September 19th, item F1, and then under the committee recommendations, CWC 2023-158 and 169 is where I previously declared. So I just, have those pulled when we go to adopt, just from a housekeeping perspective. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, have you captured that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, seeing no other declarations of interest, I'm going to proceed to our land acknowledgement. The town of East Gwillimbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used and occupied by the first peoples of the Williams Treaties First Nations and other Indigenous peoples. And on behalf of Council, I thank them for sharing this land. And we also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as EG's closest First Nation community and recognize the unique relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and we join them in these responsibilities. Next, I will move to item D, deputations. And we have with us today Mr. Petejan to give us a deputation. I would remind you, Mr. Petejan, I know you're no stranger to us, but you have 5 minutes, and I would ask everyone today to observe the rules of decorum and be respectful of our presenter and make sure that we refrain from cheering, clapping, and unnecessary outbursts. Over to you, Mr. Petejan. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of Council. And I'll try to do my best for that 5 minutes, but it might be just slightly over. Just bear with me, though. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for allowing me to present this afternoon. In this deposition, I would like to refer to the Corporation of the Town of East Gwillimbury as the Corporation. Back on March 21st of this year, I deliberated to Council the concerns of residents over the strategic plan and the 15-minute cities, which the Corporation has adopted from the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. I deliberated again on May 2nd and May 16th with similar issues to Council, which has been recorded on the website. The discovery of misinformation and the lack of resident feedback was overwhelming as per the petition submitted to Council. 2 weeks ago, I sat in Council chambers and listened to Council referencing housing, mayor's powers, where is the mayor? Stakeholders, Place to Growth Act, and listen to a councillor say the corporation is financially cash surplus of over $144 million, and yet municipal taxes continue to go up. Governments should never be profit-generating corporations, but a balancing act. My last 3 meetings, the corporation has shown a lack of transparency, openness, clarity, and input for residents. Since March 21st, the only change to the strategic plan was the term 15-minute neighborhoods. It was removed from the corporation website, but it's still followed in the official strategic plan. The government is asking Council for a housing commitment of 4,300 new housing units built by 2031 as part of the new housing targets. It was mentioned that the province was providing some monetary value. Was that an incentive or a bribe? Remember, this is all taxpayers' money. Will 4,300 units be the final number, or will this number increase over time? Regardless, the province has the final say. The province is expecting to have a reply by October the 15th. Our community is made up of 75% green space, such as wetlands, conservation areas, farmlands, forests, and parks. The corporation is projected to grow an additional 100,000 people in the next 25 years. Canada will double in its population in the next 25 years. I'm not an accountant, but 4,300 new homes will not resolve the housing crisis. It was suggested that the White Belt lands be used as new build areas. This is not to be confused with the Green Belt lands. Do residents even know where the White Belt lands are located? Who owns the White Belt lands? Are residents aware of this? Will these be the new 15-minute cities such as Queensville and Sharon, according to the strategic plan? Restructuring of Canada's mayors and municipalities under the auspice of the United Nations began in 1992. Prime Minister Mulroney signed Canada onto the UN Agenda 21 and now Agenda 2030. Canada became a UN member along with 178 other countries. Why? For the promise of big money to go green. Shortly afterwards, Canada was being directed by the UN, the G7, G20, Council of Foreign Affairs Relationship, World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, BlackRock, Vanguard, just to name a few. These non-governmental organizations, or NGOs, are known as partnerships and stakeholders, domestic or international. Don't be fooled. These are unelected groups using money, power, and position to influence government at every level for their shareholders and members, solely for the purpose of control and profits, as mentioned in my earlier depositions. Why do we have a housing crisis? Simply put, too many people are coming to Canada to live because of federal, provincial, regional, and municipal policies. In addition, housing, immigration, and SDGs are all connected to contributing to the crisis. But most of all, people. Once known as peacemakers, we are now aiding, contributing to wars around the world. The United Nations developed the Sustainable Development Goals to assist poor countries around the world, not G7 countries. Mayors are asked for greater powers. This will allow mayors to appoint municipal chief administrative officers, propose municipal budgets, and veto certain bylaws. If the mayor is of the opinion a bylaw could potentially interfere with a provincial priority, they have the powers to bypass councillors. Before each corporation meeting, an acknowledgement is given to the Indigenous First Nations people, as cited today. East Gwillimbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally occupied and used by the First Nations people of William Street First Nations and other Indigenous people on behalf of Council. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of the land, and we join them in these responsibilities. So, putting 4,300 homes, does that seem like responsibility? With that, with groups, which group was invited first? The Indigenous First Nations people or the NGOs? Why should corporations follow the direction of government policy that benefits non-government organizations? Progress is inevitable, but this resolution is not about progress or housing, but rather about economic growth and wealth for partners, stakeholders, and NGOs. In closing, since my first deposition, communities are asking across this country, scenes such as the Aurora Council meeting of September 19th, 2023, that went viral, it literally went around the world, and has started an awareness of how councils are operating. Council's duty is to protect, serve, support the freedoms of human rights, privileges given to Canadians in our Constitution. Thus, the corporation has no alternative but to vote in favor of this resolution. This corporation should vigorously oppose sections of the Act, as it
Mr.
does
Petejan,
not.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we are at 7 minutes, so
This is it right here.
quickly wrap up.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the extra time, Mr. Chair. This corporation should vigorously oppose sections of the Act as it does not identify why we have a crisis and who is responsible. I would like to welcome an open dialogue with Council in sharing these important facts above. We are all on a journey, and together we can make a difference. I thank you, and I'm open for questions. Before the questions, I would like to add one little thing. I'd like to mention that council meetings and voting should be done in the evening when residents can attend and listen to their voices and opinions. Also, 5 minutes of a deposition does not provide sufficient time, as I just illustrated, to deliberate critical issues. These requests have been asked many times by others before me. Thank you, and I'm open for questions if there are any.
Thank you, Mr. Petejan, and you got 8 minutes. Don't say I don't do anything for you.
I'll keep that in consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder for receiving Mr. Petejan's deputation? I have a mover. Moved by Councillor Leahy, seconded by Councillor Carruthers. Thank you. Now, do we have any questions from council? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor? Okay. Thank you very much. Your talk was very thorough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Council, for listening.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item E, presentations. We have none at this time. And then to item F, committee recommendations. To adopt the Committee of the Whole Council recommendations from the meeting held on September 19th, 2023. Councillor John says a declaration with respect to 2 CWC recommendations, CWC 2023-158 and 169. So let's deal with these first. Can I have a mover and a seconder for these? Moved by Councillor Roy De Clemente, seconded by Councillor Carruthers. All those in favor? Okay, motion carried. And then we'll deal with the balance of the recommendations from that committee of the Whole Council on September 19th, 2023. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Leahy, Councillor Carruthers, all those in favor? Motion is carried. So we're going to move to adopt the Committee of the Whole Council recommendations for the meeting held on October 3rd, 2023. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Johns. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And be it resolved that Council adopt the Committee of the Whole recommendations for the meeting of October 3rd as follows. Be it resolved that staff be requested to undertake the best efforts to coordinate an update for the October 17th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting with the Sharon Temple Museum Society and the Welland Group Development for an update to the Howard House project and Welland Group's development plans for the land, and that Council ratify the resolution at the October 3rd, 2023 Council meeting. Can I have a mover? It's been dealt with? All right, fine. Now we're moving on to item G, the minutes. We have to adopt the Committee of the Whole minutes from the meeting held on September 19th, 2023. Can I have a mover for this, please? Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Roy De Clemente. Be it resolved that Council adopt the Committee of the Whole minutes from the meeting held on September 19th, 2023. All those in favor? None opposed. Motion is carried. Moving on to number 2, to adopt council minutes from the special meeting held on September 13th, 2023, and the meeting held on September 19th, 2023. Moved by Councillor Leahy, seconded by Councillor Roy De Clemente. Be it resolved that Council adopt the following minutes. Council minutes for the special meeting held on September 13th, 2023. Council minutes held from the meeting held on September 19th, 2023. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Now, to the notice of motion. Now, this has been presented to us to introduce it to Council. We can leave it here and bring it up at our next Council meeting and discuss and then make amendments if we so desire, or we can talk about it at length today. So I leave it up to the will of Council on how you would like to deal with this. If we want to discuss it today, we have to waive procedure, and that's a separate vote. But happy to follow direction from council on how you'd like to go. Any takers? Councillor Carruthers, you have a suggestion?
I move the resolution that's included in our agenda. That the notice of motion submitted by Councillor Crone regarding the provincially assigned housing targets confirmation be included in the agenda for the future council meeting.
Okay. All right. Sorry, we have a mover. Let me have a seconder first. Do we have a seconder on that? Before we discuss? Okay, seconded by Councillor Roy DeClemente. Councillor Lee, actually, I should give the mover the chance to speak to it. So, over to you, Councillor Carruthers. And then I noticed you wanted to say something, Councillor Leahy. Go ahead, Councillor Carruthers.
So this has come to us as a notice of motion, and the procedure is that it come to the next council meeting so that we have time to discuss this and do our due diligence on it. And there's a lot of information coming into us from how other councils are handling this. So I think the extra week for us to take a look at this is a good idea for us so that we come at this with the most information possible. So that's why I'm moving this in support of our regular procedure. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Leahy, Councillor Leahy and then Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you very much, through you, Mr. Chair. The motion states vaguely a future meeting of council. There is a deadline that we need to keep in mind, and so it would be much more preferable. We've had significant amount of time already to consider all of the implications of the motions that we discuss it today.
Okay. Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Two questions. One is procedurally, our next regularly scheduled council meeting isn't until October 17th. So is it being proposed that our workshop on the 11th would then also be a special council meeting? Are we creating a special council meeting just to deal with this?
Madam Clerk.
Through Mr. Chair, that particular meeting is a special council meeting with a component of a workshop. So there are two workshop topic items. However, the umbrella that the meeting will fall under is a special council meeting.
So we'd be adding to the workshop with council business.
Correct.
Okay. The other question I had through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, to the clerk, having had some time to review this, I'd like to suggest that a couple of the clauses from one be moved to the other just because of the subject matter that they're in. So they refer to the head of council powers, and the second resolution refers to head of council powers. So I was hoping that, and I don't know whether there's a space to do that here because of the fact that it's a notice of motion and we aren't discussing it, but my feeling is, and given that I'm on here as the mover, I might like to amend it before it comes back to us for some editing. If we can edit it at the next time, that's fine too, but I just wanted to ask that question.
Through Mr. Chair, procedurally, in order to consider the edits, council would have to waive the procedure with a special majority vote to consider those amendments, Councillor Roy DeClemente. Subsequently, council does have an opportunity to defer the revised item for consideration on the 11th. So you wouldn't necessarily be considering it. You would be making the amendments to the notice.
I think what I'm hearing is if we're going to discuss it, it's doing it today, or these stand and they come to us for discussion at a future meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you've summarized that well. Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Foster, Councillor Johns? No? Okay, so we have the, Madam Clerk, the motion that we have before us right now.
Through Mr. Chair, the motion is just simply asking to be included on an agenda for a future council meeting. However, there were some notations about the deadline for submission. So perhaps council would want to consider that be placed on the October 11th, 2023 special council workshop.
Yeah, we can't, we have the 15th deadline that we're dealing with, so it can be no later than the 11th. Go ahead, Councillor Carruthers.
So as the mover, I take that as a friendly amendment. It's the same intention as the motion, just putting that date of October 11th in there.
Councillor Leahy.
Thank you, through you, Acting Mayor Crone. Would there be the consideration that we have a separate special council meeting outside of the workshop that is already organized? If we're not going to discuss this today, and there may be robust debate on these topics, which could take a significant amount of time, would it not be better to discuss it today?
Madam Clerk, I know we're tight for time, but it would be, sorry, Madam Clerk, just so I'm crystal clear with what you're saying, Councillor Leahy, are you saying before the 11th or before the 15th at any given time?
Well, either, as long as it's sooner rather than later would be better, but I'm saying outside of the already scheduled special council workshop on the 11th. So another time, another
Okay.
day, yeah.
Let's hold that for a second, because we're dealing with this motion at the moment where Councillor Carruthers has asked that we take it and defer it, or place it on, we consider it on the 11th. So, Councillor Johns, you haven't spoken, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be voting in support of Councillor Carruthers' motion with the amendment for the 11th. I think that the comments were regarding what other municipalities were doing. I appreciate that, and I think a consideration, and I think that Mr. Petejan's deputation today that we just heard talked about the need for additional consultation, and I think that if we can have some more time, then I think that we should take some more time. And so with that, I will follow Councillor Carruthers' motion and be voting in favor of it. So
we have the motion to effectively deal with it either on the 11th as amended. If this fails, then we can go back to you, Councillor Leahy, and take your suggestion. So I will call the vote to deal with this motion as presented by Councillor Carruthers. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Count. Motion is passed. Okay. Councillor Leahy, you would like to say something?
Yes, I have a procedural question. There were 3 votes in favor, and yourself and Councillor Roy DeClemente and myself are 3. And if we are opposed, then if it's a tie, it is automatically defeated. Is that not correct?
Councillor Johns.
Yes. Councillor Johns, Councillor Carruthers, and Councillor Foster voted in favor. Is that not correct?
Go ahead, Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Mr. Chair, you did not ask who was in opposition, and it was not clear how you yourself cast your vote. So I think that's the question. So I actually didn't vote because I was not asked if I was in opposition. So just some clarity on what just took
Yep,
place.
no, fair
Please,
enough.
Thank you.
Sorry, I thought I counted 4, but
You didn't ask for opposed.
no, I did not. So I will ask for opposed. We have 2 opposed, and I am going to vote in favor. So motion is carried. Yes, sorry, I'm just getting to my notes here. Going to deal now with the second notice of motion. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor Carruthers, seconded by Councillor Johns. This is, be it resolved that the notice of motion submitted by Councillor Crone regarding strong mayor powers be included in the agenda for a future council meeting on the 11th. Okay. Do we have any questions about this? Okay, I will call a vote. All those in favor? Okay. All those opposed? Motion is carried. All right, seeing that we have nothing through items I through L, I will move to item M, other business. Is there any other business at this time? Actually, if I may, Madam Clerk, forgive me, but Councillor Leahy, you were going to suggest, I believe, an alternate meeting date for these resolutions. Would you care to speak to that? I just wanted to capture that from earlier in this meeting.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. My concern was that we already have a full agenda for that special council meeting on the 11th, and that it might be more appropriate if we are going to delay discussion of this, that we pick a separate date entirely to consider these two motions.
Okay. What are the thoughts from our colleagues on council? Would anyone like to weigh in on this? Councillor Roy DiClemente.
For 13 years, I voted against our council meeting schedule because I felt that we should be having evening meetings and that we should be conducting the business of the municipality in the evenings. That said, we are currently operating with a schedule that was adopted quite some time ago, and reserving additional time in my calendar in the next couple of weeks is a challenging proposition for me, even if it were to be an evening meeting. And I think that from that perspective, I think it would be challenging for us to find more room on calendars. If anything, I would move workshop subtopics off of our agenda in order to be able to address this. Nothing is more pressing and more time sensitive than October 11th and October 15th. So I think that if anything, that's the subject of that meeting, and the workshops can be deferred if staff would be in support of that as well. But that's my thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Staff, do you have any feedback on that?
Mr. Chair, the two items on there are not time sensitive in terms of any sort of external related deadlines or anything like that. They're basically our sort of imposed target dates that we're trying to achieve, and those can be moved. So if council wishes to dedicate the 11th to discussing this matter and dealing with this matter, from my perspective, I believe we could accommodate that.
Is there any other discussion on this? Councillor Carruthers?
I'm not sure that we're going to need the whole time, so I think we can do some workshop. And just to Councillor Roy DiClemente's point, in case it was not clear to people who were listening or people in the audience, the 11th is an evening meeting. So to Mr. Petejan's point about discussing this when people are off work, the 11th sounds like it's a very good time to be doing so.
Any other comments? So, Councillor Leahy, did you want to keep your motion that we find another date? Or are you happy to withdraw it?
I will withdraw my motion. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so on to Mr. Velchich, please go ahead.
Mr. Chair, just for clarity, are we to understand then that council is asking that date of the 11th just be reserved for this one item? Or I also heard a comment that, perhaps we could deal with, say, one of the workshop topics and this item. We just would like clarity, just so we know how to plan the agenda accordingly.
I think what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, that we can definitely, this notice of motion needs to be front and center, but that we might be able to accommodate one of the education pieces. Is that, am I on side with that, everyone? Councillor Roy DiClemente?
I have to admit, I'm not sure what the subject matter of the workshops are. I'm also a night owl, so I can keep going. You give me enough coffee, and I can stay up all night if you need me to.
What a trooper. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to suggest then that we put this item first on the workshop, and then we'll put either one or both of the education items on, or the other items we have for our presentation, either second or second and third, and that way, if we don't get to something, it's not a problem, we can defer that. So we can just arrange the business of that date accordingly.
I appreciate your flexibility on that. That's great. Okay, you have direction. Any other topics for other business? Seeing none, I'm going to proceed with the confirming bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw 2023-067, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held October 3rd, 2023, be taken as read, enacted, and signed by the mayor and municipal clerk. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Foster and seconded by Councillor Roy DiClemente. All in favor? Unopposed? Motion is carried. And can I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Johns. Be it resolved that the meeting of council adjourn at 2:32 p.m. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, folks. Thanks for coming out, and thank you to people who have joined us today.